picture this. You're walking down a dark Brooklyn street, and you see three women
Oh.
dressed head to toe in black.
Wow.
Their faces are covered by these thick veils, and as they pass you, you hear whispers
Hmm?
of dark rituals and unsettling rumors.
Yeah.
This was the image that captivated the nation in the early 1900s when the story of the Black Sisters
Yeah.
and the mysterious death of Oceana Sneed,
Oh, yeah.
or OC as she was known, hit the headlines.
Right.
So today we're going deep into this chilling story.
Okay.
We're going to separate fact from fiction to uncover what really happened to OC.
A case that still fascinates people, even after all these years, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It really speaks to our fascination with those dark secrets
Yeah.
that hide beneath seemingly ordinary lives.
Right.
Family secrets, hidden motives, and the macabre.
Uh-huh.
All these elements come together as we try to unravel the mystery surrounding O.C. Sneed
Right.
and the unsettling legacy of her family.
What strikes me is how this case, even though it's over a century old,
Yeah.
still feels so relevant today.
Oh, for sure.
It's a story about family dynamics, the potential for manipulation,
Yeah,
the question of whether justice was truly served.
absolutely.
It's a timeless story in a way.
It is, and the fact that it unfolded during such a time of social change,
Uh-huh.
shifting gender roles, adds another layer of intrigue, doesn't it?
Definitely.
To really understand what happened, we need to start with O.C. herself.
Okay.
Born in 1885, her life was marked by tragedy from a young age.
You know, when I was looking through the research, it was just one tragedy after another.
It is.
A fire destroyed her family's mansion.
Right.
Her brother died suddenly.
Encephalitis after a fall, they said.
Right. And then her father passed away from a stroke.
And that's where we see a pattern emerge.
Okay.
A pattern that becomes central to this case.
What do you mean?
Well, each of these deaths was followed by a large insurance payout.
Oh, okay. So that's red flag number one, right?
It's hard not to be suspicious when tragedy seems to equal financial gain. And this pattern, these suspicious deaths and the insurance payouts, this is going to keep happening throughout the story.
Really?
It really makes you question what the motive was here.
Yeah, for sure.
Was it just a series of unfortunate events or something more sinister?
Right, right.
So after her father's death, O.C., along with her mother Caroline and her aunts,
Okay.
Virginia and Mary, they all moved to Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
They were looking for a fresh start, I guess you could say.
Yeah, makes sense.
They found jobs at a local women's college, trying to rebuild their lives.
Right.
But that's when things took a dark turn.
Oh.
The sisters, who had been seen as respectable members of society,
Right.
they started to withdraw. They began wearing only black dresses and veils.
Wow.
They were seen at the cemetery late at night.
Oh, wow.
Their interactions with the students became strange, even intrusive.
Intrusive. Like how?
Well, imagine you're a young student at a women's college,
Okay.
and these three figures dressed in black, they start appearing in your dorm at odd hours, whispering,
Right.
their faces hidden behind veils.
Yeah, that's creepy.
It went beyond eccentric.
Yeah, yeah.
It created an atmosphere of fear.
Oh, for sure.
It's such a drastic shift from how they used to be.
Right. It's almost like something changed them.
Yeah.
Like a switch flip.
That's the question investigators were asking.
What was it?
What caused this change?
Yeah.
Was it just eccentricity, or was there a darker force at play?
Right.
One that would lead to OC's demise?
So the college obviously wasn't happy about this, right?
Well, of course not. Their reputation was at stake.
Yeah.
Parents began pulling their daughters out of the school.
Oh, wow.
Rumors spread about financial problems,
Oh, hey.
possibly caused by Caroline.
Mm.
So the sisters were forced to leave.
Oh, wow.
They moved to another college in Virginia,
Okay.
hoping to start over, but guess what?
What happened?
The same pattern repeated itself.
Oh, no.
At first, everything seemed normal, but once Caroline showed up,
Huh?
chaos, financial trouble,
Wow.
and eventually the college closed.
Jeez. It's like she was a bad omen.
It suggests that Caroline was the catalyst for their downfall.
Caroline seems to be at the center of all this.
Right.
But what about Virginia and Mary?
Yeah.
Were they just following along? Or were they victims of Caroline's influence?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was Caroline the mastermind?
Right.
Or were her sisters complicit? To understand their roles, we need to look at the family dynamics.
Okay.
How Caroline controlled her sisters, and especially O.C.
Right. And we can't forget about those suspicious deaths. Right.
Exactly. And Caroline's influence wasn't limited to just her sisters.
Oh.
There's the case of John Sneed,
Right. Mary's son.
and Caroline's nephew,
Yeah.
who died after a string of strange events.
He fell from a train, nearly drowned, and then died in a kerosene fire.
And each incident was followed by an insurance payout.
That's so strange.
Right. Then there's Fletcher, Mary's other son, who vanished after a visit from, guess who?
Caroline.
Caroline.
Wow, 2 suspicious deaths.
Both involving Mary's sons.
And both after Caroline got involved.
It's like she was eliminating anyone who got in her way.
So where does OC fit into all of this?
Well, OC was young, vulnerable,
Right.
likely inherited a lot of money from her father.
Okay.
And Caroline, in a really disturbing move,
Yeah.
encouraged a romance between OC and her cousin Fletcher.
Her cousin.
Yeah,
That's not just strange. It's illegal.
it was, but despite that, they got married in secret.
Wow, imagine the pressure OC must have felt.
Right.
Caught between what society expected of her and her own mother's manipulation.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
You have a young woman surrounded by these suspicious deaths,
Yeah.
this potential financial gain,
Right.
and now she's being pushed into a forbidden marriage.
All orchestrated by her own mother.
It's a heartbreaking situation.
For sure.
And as we go deeper into OC's story,
Yeah.
we'll see how this manipulation gets worse, leading to her tragic death. So we were talking about how much control OC really had in all of this.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine.
Right. Being surrounded by these people
Yeah.
who are supposed to love and protect you,
Uh-huh.
but their actions suggest otherwise.
Right, exactly.
What's interesting is how Caroline used the societal norms of the time
Okay.
to her advantage.
What do you mean?
Well, women were expected to be subservient.
Right.
Their opinions didn't matter.
Yeah.
They had limited financial independence,
Yeah.
and Caroline used those expectations to control her sisters,
Right.
and especially OC.
Oh, that's awful.
It is. And then OC's husband, Fletcher, abandoned her.
Oh, yeah, well, she was pregnant.
Right, pregnant with their second child.
What a mess.
It really is. And this just made OC even more vulnerable.
Of course.
She was alone, pregnant,
Yeah.
completely dependent on her mother and aunts.
Oh, wow.
They moved her to this rundown house in Brooklyn.
Okay.
The neighbors called it the House of Mystery. It's where OC's health, both physical and mental, started to decline rapidly.
There was a doctor, Dr. Pettit, right?
Yes.
Who was treating OC during this time.
Right.
What did he think was going on?
Dr. Pettit's observations are really important here.
Okay.
They help us understand just how much OC was suffering
Okay.
and how the family was behaving.
Right?
He saw how scared she was, how
Yeah.
weak she was physically, the lack of basic necessities in the house,
Wow.
the sisters' neglect.
Did he do anything? Like
Yeah.
report them?
He did raise concerns
Okay.
about how they were caring for OC
Yeah.
and even about her will,
Oh.
which seemed to benefit the sisters more than OC.
Hmm.
But his concerns were dismissed.
Really?
They restricted his access to OC.
Wow.
Remember back then, doctors often deferred to the family's wishes?
Especially when treating women.
Exactly.
That's terrible. She was trapped.
She was isolated, controlled,
Yeah.
probably too scared to go against her family.
That's heartbreaking.
And then, to make things worse,
Why?
OC gave birth to a son, David.
Okay.
He was sickly and needed special care.
Right.
But instead of caring for him,
Yeah.
they took him away and told OC he had died.
They lied to her about her own child's death.
They did?
That's monstrous.
It's a truly horrific detail.
Yeah.
It shows how far your manipulation went.
Imagine the emotional toll
Right. Thinking your child is dead
while being physically and emotionally drained.
and completely at their mercy.
This is just so disturbing.
It is.
So what happened next? Did they stay in Brooklyn?
No, they moved her to a rented house in East Orange, New Jersey.
Right.
The house was practically bare.
Mm.
No furniture, no personal belongings. Like they were trying to erase any trace of themselves.
Okay.
Almost like they were setting the stage
Yeah.
to make OC's death look like a tragic accident.
So it was all calculated.
It seems that way.
Wow.
Then, on November 29th, 1909,
Okay.
someone called the police in East Orange, a woman with a Southern accent.
Okay.
She said her name was Virginia
Yeah.
and that there had been an accident.
An accident.
She asked for a coroner.
What happened?
When the assistant county physician, Dr. Herbert Simmons,
Okay.
arrived at the house,
Yeah.
Virginia, wearing her black veil,
Of course.
led him to the bathroom
Okay.
where he found OC's body,
Oh, no.
submerged in a few inches of water in the bathtub.
Did it look like a suicide?
There was a note,
Okay.
neatly written, attached to a pile of clothes.
What did it say?
It talked about OC's grief over losing her child, her desire to escape her suffering.
But
Dr. Simmons was immediately suspicious.
what made him suspicious?
Well, for one, the house was practically empty.
Right.
It didn't match Virginia's story about just moving in.
Yeah, right.
And OC's body had been in the bathroom for at least a day.
Really?
It's hard to believe Virginia wouldn't have noticed sooner.
Unless she already knew.
Right.
So there were red flags right away. What about the suicide note? Did it seem real?
The handwriting was steady and clear.
Mm-hmm.
Not what you'd expect from someone so distraught.
Okay.
Dr. Simmons contacted the police.
Good thing he did.
Right. This could have easily been dismissed as a suicide.
Yeah. Okay.
When the police arrived,
Yeah.
they noticed the same emptiness that Dr. Simmons had.
Hmm.
The only personal item was a locket
A locket.
with a baby's photo and a lock of hair,
Oh.
labeled as belonging to OC's son.
It's like they were taunting her even in death.
It adds another layer of tragedy to this story.
It really does.
The police questioned Virginia.
Okay.
They noticed she was being evasive,
Yeah.
and her story had inconsistencies.
Hmm.
They started to connect the dots.
What did they find?
They found out she was staying at expensive hotels,
Really?
which contradicted her claims of being poor.
Right.
They started building a timeline
Okay.
that pointed to a deliberate act.
So they had a suspect who was lying
Right.
and evidence of a cover-up.
But did they have enough to charge her with murder?
Right. Good question.
The autopsy report was the key.
Okay, what did it say?
It showed that OC was severely emaciated,
Like she had been starved.
consistent with starvation, yes.
Wow.
And they found traces of morphine in her stomach, a powerful sedative.
Okay.
It could have made her unconscious.
So she couldn't fight back.
Exactly.
So they drugged her and drowned her.
It was a calculated act.
What about Caroline and Mary?
The police believed all three sisters were involved.
Okay.
Remember that house of mystery in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
They found bloodstains on the floor and bones in the oven.
Bones. Whose bones?
They never identified them, but their presence, along with the bloodstains and the overall feeling of the house, suggested something terrible had happened there.
Like a horror movie.
Right. They questioned the janitor who managed the house.
Okay, what did he say?
He talked about the sisters' strange behavior. Men visiting the house all the time.
Really?
Money suddenly appearing whenever they were about to be evicted.
Wow.
And the fear he sensed in OC.
So they had a pattern of suspicious deaths.
Right.
A motive.
And evidence of a cover-up.
Did they arrest all three sisters?
They arrested Virginia, charged her with murder,
Okay.
but Caroline had vanished.
Of course she did.
And Mary, she did something really bold.
What? What did she do?
She started giving interviews to the press.
She was talking to the press.
She was.
Yeah.
It was a strategy
Yeah.
to control the narrative, sway public opinion.
Oh, wow.
She made herself and her sisters out to be victims.
Really?
She played the victim card.
Unbelievable.
She even got some people to sympathize with her.
Wow, she was good.
She was.
So what about Caroline?
They eventually found her in New York City,
Okay.
hiding under the name Mrs. Mowbray.
Mrs. Mowbray.
And this is interesting.
What?
That name is connected to a famous poisoning case
A poisoning case.
from years earlier.
Wow.
Involving a woman named Florence Mowbray, who was accused of murdering her husband in England.
Are you saying Caroline chose that name on purpose?
It's a strange detail.
It can't be a coincidence?
Some people think it was a way for Caroline to align herself with another woman
Okay.
who defied societal norms and took control, even through violence.
So Caroline saw her as a role model.
It's possible.
Wow, that's chilling.
It raises questions about Caroline's motivations.
Right.
Was it just about the money?
Yeah.
Or was there something darker?
So with all three sisters caught,
Right.
did the trial finally bring justice for OC?
Well, the trial was a media sensation, full of family secrets, betrayal,
Yeah.
but the path to justice wasn't easy.
What happened at the trial?
It was full of unexpected twists and turns,
Oh.
tragic events,
Oh.
and legal maneuvering.
All right, tell me everything. So the trial was about to begin, but you said there were some surprises, right?
Right. The trial was delayed because of a series of unsettling events.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, the sister's mother died,
Oh, wow. Another tragedy.
adding another layer to this whole saga.
Yeah, for sure.
Then young David, OC's son, he passed away too.
Oh, gosh, the one they had abandoned.
Yes, the one they claimed had died earlier.
Right.
He died at the hospital.
That's so sad.
And then Virginia, While she was in custody,
Mm-hmm.
she started refusing food.
She starved herself.
Yes.
Why would she do that?
It's still a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Some say it was a way to avoid facing the consequences.
Okay.
Maybe a final act of control.
Wow.
Sadly, she died in August of 1910 before the trial could even start.
So one sister down, two to go.
What about Caroline?
Yeah, what happened with her insanity plea?
During the hearing,
Yeah.
Caroline was acting very erratically.
Really?
She had these dramatic outbursts. She
Mhm.
challenged the witnesses,
Wow.
even used her veil to try to see how the judge was reacting.
It sounds like she was putting on a show.
Like she was trying to convince everyone she was insane.
Did it work?
The judge didn't buy it.
Okay.
He declared her sane and fit to stand trial.
So what happened?
Facing all the evidence against her,
Uh-huh.
Caroline's lawyers advised her to take a plea deal.
What did she plead guilty to?
Manslaughter.
Manslaughter. That's it.
A lot of people thought she deserved more.
I can see why they drugged her, drowned her.
It was a different time, though,
Yeah.
and it was hard to prove they had planned it all out.
Okay.
Plus, with Virginia gone,
Right.
they didn't have her testimony to support the murder charge.
So what was Caroline's sentence?
7 years in prison.
7 years.
But her mental state kept getting worse,
Okay.
and she was sent to a mental institution where she died in 1913.
So Caroline ends up in an institution.
Yeah.
What about Mary, the last sister?
Well, this is maybe the most shocking part.
What happened?
Because Caroline pleaded guilty to manslaughter,
Uh-huh.
the charges against Mary were dropped.
She was set free.
She was...
All of that.
She ended up moving to Colorado
Okay.
to live with another son who had stayed hidden this whole time.
Another son. Wow, there's always more to uncover with this family
It seems like she was able to rebuild her life.
and escape any real consequences.
But the story doesn't quite end there.
What do you mean?
In 1930, Mary came back into the picture.
What did she do?
She tried to claim some diamonds
Diamonds?
that she said belonged to Virginia.
She wanted the diamonds after all those years.
It shows how bold she was.
Right.
Her desire for wealth, even after everything that had happened.
It's hard to believe.
We don't know if she got the diamonds,
Mm,
but it speaks volumes about her character.
it really does.
This whole story, it's just unbelievable.
It's like something out of a movie.
It reminds us that sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah, for sure.
The Black Sisters and the murder of O.C. Sneeed.
It's a fascinating case.
A story of family secrets, ambition, and the consequences of control.
We've covered a lot today, from OC's early life to the events that led to her death.
It's a story that makes you think about the darker side of human nature.
It really does.
The cruelty and manipulation that can happen even in families.
It also shows how important it is to speak up.
Yes, when you see something wrong.
Dr. Pettit knew OC was in danger.
But no one listened.
What if someone had intervened?
Maybe things would have been different.
It's a sad thought.
This case is a stark reminder that home isn't always a safe place.
For OC, it was a prison.
And while the Black Sisters faced some consequences,
Right.
the impact of their actions is still felt.
OC's life was cut short.
And the shadow of their crimes remains.
A reminder of the darkness that could exist anywhere.
This deep dive has been a whirlwind.
It's a case that stays with you.
It makes you think about family, greed, and justice.
Thank you for joining us today.
We hope this exploration shed some light on this dark chapter.
If you enjoyed this deep dive,
Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.
until next time, stay curious.